everybody, I'm Soben Pin. Welcome to Khmer Post USA television show. This week's episode, I'd like to bring you the Chief Executive Officer of Community Teamwork, Frederick, and the Director of Energy and Community Resource Center, Connie. Two of them will join me momentarily, and they will be talking about the resources that are available to serve the Greater Lowell and beyond, total of 63 towns in Middlesex and Essex County. Let's welcome Frederick and Connie. Hello, hi Karen.
How are you?
Good, how are you? Long time no see.
I know. It's been a while, hasn't it?
Well, I'm glad to have you on. Thank you for making the time for the Khmer Post television show. This segment will get air and it also get printed in a newspaper, sharing information with our community, the kind of resource that you have available to help community during the COVID-19.
Well, thank you for having us. We're very happy to talk about how we can help and what our resources are.
I also like to welcome Connie. She is the Division Director of Energy and Community Resource. Welcome, Connie.
Well, thank you so very much. Very happy to be here.
And Frederick is the CEO, Chief Executive Officer of Community Teamwork. Again, welcome both to the program.
Thank you, Soben.
Today we have the whole hour to talk about everything that has been going on. We already so many months into the pandemic, and I know so much happened, and your organization also have been doing a lot during the past few months. I have been getting newsletter, and I think some of the first, let's just say briefly, what some of the things have you been seeing the COVID-19 impact in the region that you serve?
Well, I mean, I think, as you know, we serve 70 communities in Middlesex and Essex counties, and serve probably about 54,000 people in a variety of programs, from housing to education to financial education, and all kinds of resources to help people move forward in their lives. So finding supports for education and training, as well as doing programs that help them maximize their income. So when COVID first hit, I'll turn this off. When COVID first hit, what we found initially was there was a huge need for food and basic necessities. So I think immediately we started thinking about how do we help with that. At the same time, we were transitioning all of our big traditional federal and state programs like fuel assistance and leased housing supports and WIC to being totally remote. So we never missed a beat. Our organization does do essential services. We've been open all through the pandemic, some in person and some going completely remotely. So in our current, when we first started, we transitioned all of our big programs to remote. However, our shelter system stayed open with people working in the shelter system every day. So we had to find ways to keep families and staff safe. And we did that by depopulating our shelters. We brought on about 30 more units of housing so we could space people out better and not have everybody in a congregate setting, but move them out so there could be social distancing. We delivered meals to everyone for several months. We, in addition, once our childcare centers closed, we immediately started delivering food that our partners in the school department and Aramark were preparing. We brought 800 meals a day to people directly who couldn't get out. And they may not have had transportation, or they might have been quarantining, or they may have been sick. So we transitioned all of that pretty much overnight. And I say every time I talk about this, our IT and our facilities department were like magicians. You know, they really moved so quickly to help us do the work that we're doing at home. So in our leased housing programs, for instance, if you lost income, lost a job, you could readjust your rent and have your portion of the rent be lower. So we wanted to make sure we could immediately do all those things and we could really move quickly.
So that sounds, it's really amazing. That's well, just only one small fraction of what you do at CTI. And I know a bunch of the other things that you do also, rental assistant program.
Correct.
I think that's what people really worried about now. A lot of people lost job, and with the stimulus doesn't make up enough money for the needy family to cover all the expense at this point. So tell me some of things that you have to help the family right now.
So I'm going to turn it over to Connie because she lives this every day as our division director of community resources. And, you know, it's interesting because we saw at first the food and the emergencies, and now we're seeing the rental assistance and income supports that are desperately needed. So Connie.
There you go.
Connie, take it away.
Absolutely. Well, you know, I think, you know, community team was really very uniquely positioned so that we could kind of follow this continuum for what client needs were as they presented and as it really changed over these last 6 or 7 months. I think you're absolutely correct that one of the biggest challenges facing our communities right now, and this isn't unique to Greater Lowell or Massachusetts even, is this kind of looming rent crisis. Here in Massachusetts alone, you know, fairly early on during the pandemic, there was an eviction moratorium put in place so that families, individuals could not be evicted. The date of that is October 17th. That's when that's going to expire. So there was this period, this grace period, recognizing that the pandemic, you know, forced a lot of people out of work, forced a lot of people into their homes, so that, you know, it was a recognition from the Commonwealth and from the court system that there needed to be that kind of buffer period. But we're now coming up on the end of it. We spent a great deal of time during that time connecting with clients and connecting with property owners to try and get ahead of this eviction wave, quite honestly, that we're expecting on October 18th. The latest estimates we've heard have been approximately 20,000 eviction actions are going to happen beginning October 18th. So that's 20,000, you know, across the Commonwealth of individuals and families who are going to be forced, you know, kind of immediately into this eviction process. And we're prepared to, you know, we're part of the response for that. At Community Teamwork, we have both our resource center and our housing consumer education center. They work very closely in tandem for families. And I can share all the contact information on that too, so that as, you know, people can know how to reach out most effectively. But I think one key thing, particularly around this rental assistance area, is that we are the administrating agency for RAFT. RAFT funding is, it's titled Rental Assistance for Families in Transition, but it really does serve a broader demographic than that. And it is the program that really the Commonwealth has infused with additional resources, additional staffing, so that we can respond to this eviction crisis. It is able to, at this point, provide up to $4,000 to provide back rent, in some cases, some forward-looking stipends to help stabilize people, keep them in their homes. It can also be used to establish new tenancies when you have families who've been doubled up or not living in, say, an appropriate housing situation, to get them into an appropriate housing situation. And really, I think at its core, it's really meant to provide the stabilizing resources that will allow a family to remain safe in their homes, establish, you know, a safe home for themselves and also true for individuals, but ultimately to keep them from tipping into abject homelessness and moving into the shelter system. The recognition is that it's so much more economically feasible and so much cheaper, quite honestly, to keep a family housed than it is to have that family fall into the homelessness system.
And I guess you have some kind of income guideline, for family that can be qualified.
We do,
What is
absolutely.
the income cutoff?
Exactly. We're set up so that, and this is true both for individuals who are looking to access RAF funds as well as families. We go on the area median income. All that information is provided on our website, and I can give that to you right now. It's commteam.org, COMMTEAM.org. From our first landing page, you can access this rental assistance program directly. It's just one click that will get you to the information. It includes the AMI breakdown. It is influenced, AMI is you have to incorporate household size and things like that. So it's best for people to just they can look at it and get a sense of exactly where they fall. But from that direct page, you can access a direct link to to be able to begin your application online. It's a Cognito system, which allows people to fill out all their information, also allows them to upload all their documentation. Like any government program, we do require backup documentation, again, around income and rental, rental information and all that. But we really, with this new system, have made it extremely streamlined so that people can just go online, complete the entire application, and that gets sent directly to one of our expert housing counselors, who will take that through the entire process, reaching back out to the client and to the appropriate landlord to get all the information that we need. And I also want to say, we recognize for a lot of people, it's now second nature that you go online and you fill out a form. For a lot of people, it's not. So we make sure that you're able to connect with one of the staff, either in our resource center or the HCEC. We have staff that speak multiple languages, Arabic, Spanish, Khmer, and we have access to literally dozens of other languages in addition to that. So staff can literally, by phone or in extreme circumstances, even in person, take someone through that application process to make sure that it's as easy as it possibly can be.
And Connie, I just want to add that income is a little higher than it used to be for some of our, so the Commonwealth and federal government have eased and made it people eligible who have more income. So if you have a question, call, send something in, go online, but ask, because we're also administering private foundation dollars and various other money that we've received for rental assistance. So there's a little more flexibility than there used to be. And I think, if people have questions, it's probably the easiest to talk. And we have drop off, we get mail, because we do old school as well as as Connie said, any method, because we know that it's not the same for everybody.
And Karen, I know back to school, I hear a lot of parents are really frustrating with social distancing, and many parents have to now be at home and homeschool their children. And those parents who still are essential worker, who watch their children? Is CTI able to help with limited capacity now that I know that Open is not quite full with the after school program? Explain me the situation you have now.
Well, that is a very good question, because essential workers need childcare, right? And that, for many of our families, they're single parents, they're working, and they need a safe and, learning place for their child as well. So our early learning centers, our preschool, infant, toddler, our family childcare providers are all open. We reopened when the Commonwealth allowed us to at the beginning of July. We have half the capacity right now, but we're constantly looking for ways to expand that, and we'll continue to. as more need arises and we can, get more folks in, converting classrooms and all of that. So we're continually looking at how to grow to meet the need. We also want to keep people safe, and Megan Sembor is our division director. They've done a great job. We have all the protocols in place where people have to check in. People don't come into our buildings. It's just the children, and they're in groups of 10. And while the Commonwealth has said we can increase that size right now, we're holding it at 10 to 12 until we get through flu season and see what the spike looks like. So we're trying to do all of those things with our youngest children, and we've had a very successful reopening and several months of care. So I'm very proud of that and very thankful to our essential workers who are making this all happen. It's a whole new world. We have big units that disinfect toys in every building. We've done work on HVAC systems. We have air purifiers where they're needed. We have, cleaning protocols that meet all of the standards of, CDC and boards of health and everything. And we've gone beyond, and I think that shows in our outcomes. So we're very proud of that. Our school age programs are for children 6 to 12. We've had a real challenge. We had all of our programs in public schools, which, as you can imagine, all need the space now for their own programming. So in, I think, end of August, early September, we had to find spaces for over 400 school-age children. And we're in the process of finalizing those spaces. It's really amazing. We worked in the community. We found the faith-based community and churches stepping up. Buildings that we never expected are looking good, and it's looking like we will have space for well over 400 children soon. And we're connecting with parents to make sure they know that we'll be reopening, I think we currently have probably 80 to 100 children in care, but we need to get that number up because there are a lot of parents who are worried about their children at home not logging on. As I always say, I'm the mother of 4 grown children. Thank goodness they're all grown up and I don't have to worry about schooling them. But it would have been a challenge for me to work as a single mom, and who's watching them log on, right? And who's making sure they're paying attention. So we will be offering oversight of, making sure kids come in, are doing their work, are logging on, have, breakfast, have lunch, get some outdoor time and some recreation during the day while their parents work. And I think it's a very critical service. I know our colleagues across the city are doing the same thing. I think the out-of-school time providers, are all trying to respond to this as well, so that we have a network where parents know where they can send their children during the day.
So this is the program that used to only serve after school, and you expanding an all day long?
All day long. That's right. We will be open. We are very fortunate. The Commonwealth, we are funded by the Department of Early Education and Care, which is under the Department of Secondary and Elementary Education, and they have allowed us to be paid for a full day. And even if children are going in part of the day, or some days, the other days they can come to us and we'll be reimbursed for a full-time program for those. As some models are doing, hybrids, although here in Lowell, I think the kids that are in every day. So we will be doing more in Lowell for of children who are doing remote learning only.
I also see you have a press release, a couple press releases out, done one on small business resources and another one expansion of WIC program. Can you elaborate a little more, like what kind of opportunity will be available for small business, basically who are struggling, not getting customer months now, cannot open. Many have foreclosed the door for good in our community. I don't know if you or Connie can take on that one.
Well, those are in Connie's shop as well. So here you go, Connie.
There
I'm
you
so
go.
glad
That's
you're
how
on
I
this.
got to this meeting. Starting with the small business response, our entrepreneurship center, which has been part of community teamwork for over 25 years, really, we had set ourselves up, I'd say it's been about 5 years now, as an intermediary loan office for the Small Business Administration. We currently, and we've certainly grown that portfolio, we currently have about over $600,000 in small business loans that we're managing across the Merrimack Valley. And one of the key things with that is that those funds, they're considered microloans. They're specifically targeted at low-income entrepreneurs, at non-English speaking entrepreneurs. So it's really about providing not just the cash, because the cash is certainly important when businesses need capital when they're starting or as they're growing, but it's also all the technical assistance that wraps around them in terms of marketing support and operation support, all those different things that really go into making a business successful. When the pandemic first hit, we were really, and it's not surprising, but we were really struck by how many small businesses were teetering on the edge. And this pandemic was what, was frighteningly what was going to tip them over. We did receive additional resources to help small businesses. Most of your, people hear about the payroll protection, some of those big programs that were implemented early on. Most of those were provided by traditional SBA lenders. The banks were the ones who are really processing that. One of the key things in the federal response for the SBA micro lenders like ourselves is that they provided 6 months of debt relief, basically, for all of our current SBA loan recipients and anyone who entered into a new loan in this last 6-month period. So they all received 6 months of forgiveness for those payments, which, as you can imagine, in this kind of environment, just made a huge, huge difference for businesses as they were trying to find their feet. And what a pandemic type successful business structure can look like. So that really was, I think, a really powerful incentive and protection measure that went in place. That part of the loan program is wrapping up right now, but we have just launched our next kind of tranche of funding for small businesses through the SBA. So that is funding that is available. Our loans basically run between $10,000 to $50,000. And therefore, certainly new entrepreneurs who are starting new ventures, but they're also for various points throughout the growth cycle and life cycle of businesses. So that many times we're working with entrepreneurs who've had a small business running for maybe a year or two. They're looking to take that next step and need that capital infusion to do that. So that's an important offering that we have in place right now. One of the, I'll say this for myself personally, most exciting things is, and I believe this is what the press release you're referring to is, we were recently awarded a prime grant from the feds, from the Federal Small Business Administration. This is going to basically, it's including our match funds, it's going to be a $300,000 investment in local entrepreneurs. It includes also some of our match funding is coming directly from the city of Lowell to support this as well as part of their economic investment in small business. And the grant has been designed so that we'll be working with between 70 to 80 individual entrepreneurs, small businesses. And what we're basically creating are what we're calling STAT teams. And it's basically a team of 4. It'll vary depending on what part of the city we're working in, the native language of the entrepreneur. So we're going to make sure that we have expertise that's coming in to these businesses that is easily understandable and able to be able to implement changes and offer that technical assistance support in an effective way. And it's basically, as I say, a 4-person team that will go into it. We'll be working with an entrepreneur, and they will be providing marketing support. They'll be providing, again, business operations, financial operations support, and finally, entrepreneurship wellness support. As we've worked with businesses over many years, and certainly Frankie Dakota, who I know many people know, is the director of our Entrepreneurship Center, comes from a very strong entrepreneurship background herself, having owned several businesses, several successful businesses, and has been working for several years here at Community Teamwork, and has a very strong sense of the pulse of small business here in Lowell, Greater Lowell, and really throughout the Merrimack Valley. Really was able to pinpoint those 4 key kind of pillars as to what makes what will make or break a small business. And I think for a lot of our entrepreneurs, understanding that entrepreneurship wellness aspect of it, ensuring that entrepreneurs aren't overwhelming themselves or their families or even their business capacity, ensuring that they're making those types of decisions so that all 4 of those considerations are part of their kind of hardcore business planning is what we've really determined is going to help businesses make it through this pandemic and position themselves, perhaps even more importantly, for what comes next. So the Prime Grant being awarded to Community Teamwork really was an extraordinary get. There were only 27 that were funded across the country. I will say we have been working to get this funding, well, for at least 6 years now.
Long time.
Yeah, a lot of innovative proposals went by the wayside. But this really was a compelling ask. And I think it really was the right type of innovation in the right type of environment that we find ourselves right now. So it's going to be, I think, an enormous resource for our entrepreneurship, small business community here in the Merrimack Valley.
That's wonderful. And I think the next one is I see the request for expansion on WIC program.
Another one of mine.
Another one in your shop.
I know, really. It's a good day for me. So our WIC program, for people who may not know, it's women, infants, and children. It's basically a nutrition and health support program for pregnant women and for children up to age 5. And it's meant to provide access to healthy foods, also a better understanding of nutrition choices, and ongoing health supports for young children and their families. One of the key things that changed, as Karen had mentioned earlier, when we went to this kind of, remote, process, WIC is a very touchy-feely program. It has always been bringing your children into the office and going through a lot of the health measures, and it was a very interactive kind of program. I have been absolutely so impressed with staff in our WIC program because they have been able to take that, and be able to provide that same level of service in this new remote environment. So that they're doing one-on-ones with parents, working with kids, able to provide the nutrition supports, both again, the WIC cards that allow families to go to any market and be able to purchase healthy foods, still keep learning about those important nutrition choices and how important the impacts are on children. And in this remote environment, what we have actually seen is that we've seen our caseload increase by about 600. We're currently working with over 5,600 children in our WIC program right now. We're above our kind of mandated case level. And a huge part of that is that, in this pandemic situation, parents are really very comfortable having these conversations now, whether by phone or Zoom or, the other media that we have at our disposal. And the added convenience of not having to, go out if, worried about kids getting sick, themselves getting sick, things like that. This has been a way to kind of keep them keep them safer and still be able to get those important supports into the family's hands at a time when health and nutrition is certainly, critically important.
And Karen, I see that you also lately have been focused on diversity, equity, inclusion measure. Explain me some of these things that CTI is doing to cover the ground in this area.
Well, it's kind of going back to some of our roots in a way. You know, we are a community action agency that was started in the civil rights movement and the war on poverty, with a mission to give people a voice who are traditionally not at the table, and to make that table open to everyone. And that has always been part of who we are in community action. And I think, you know, the wake-up call and the horrific events that happened in the spring brought us all back to reconfirming our mission as a community action agency to be a catalyst for social change. So that's really, I think we've galvanized and really recommitted to the work that we do in diversity and inclusion in our agency and in the community. And for me, it is a part of who we are and who we should be and what we should be doing in addition to all of our other work. And that's the same, our board feels the same way, and we have recommitted to doing that work. Internally, we've created a committee of staff who are working very hard on looking at training, policies, along with the Executive Management Committee, and I'm very grateful to people for stepping up to be on that committee. We've also, the board has created a committee that's board and staff that will report back to the board every month on the work that we're doing, you know, both internally and externally. And it has been right now about education. We've had board training. We're looking at staff training. We've started doing staff training actually in a more intentional way a couple of years ago, but really recognized it wasn't enough and that it needed to be broader and more inclusive. And so that we're really looking at that again and how we do it and how does it become part of an integral part of the organization of our everyday life. While right now, it's almost half of our staff is white and almost half of our staff is not white. We're a very diverse organization, and we have a responsibility to look at that across the organization at all levels, and then in how we work in the community. So, you know, I'm very proud that we have taken the actions that were taken and that we're working very intentionally with partners in the community and in our own organization. And as you know, there's a lot of work to do for all of us. And it can't just be something we do and go to a training and think we're all done. Because as we've been learning, I think for me, I read a lot, I watch a lot of things, I think I stay current, but some of the things I've realized have been, why didn't I know that? You know, why wasn't I aware of how some of our institutions have started and evolved over time? So we are hoping we will all become more educated and work to be actively anti-racist.
That such a active and progressive step to take on your part as an independent organization. And the last time I checked and we talked, you operate an $82 million budget. Is that still the number? And
well, you know, because
am I getting something wrong here?
we've grown. We have a lot of additional resources coming in that we distribute and work in the community with, and a lot of that is from Connie's side of the world with housing supports, and we're up to about 108 million is our budget for this year. And we take very seriously the charge to be good stewards of public funding, to make sure it goes out in the community as it should. We have a fabulous fiscal department and planning department, and they help keep us, apprised of opportunities. First of all, we're very aware of opportunities that can assist, our service area and this city. As you know, we've been working with this city on the homeless individual crisis. And that's because we can have some flexible funding we can do that with, and we will look for other funding to help as well. So yes, we've grown, but it is in ways that will directly impact our communities that we serve.
Well, you obviously doing something right, to get more funding, and the program is growing, have many good news, and expand the service in so many ways, and appreciate to see that all this effort that you making, even changing the inside structure. How many? I think how we have no idea. I think when people hear of CTI, we don't know how many staff you have. And I know just a bold number, 63 towns and city that you cover, that is huge. And where is Lowell in among that pie?
Well,
Be
Lowell,
the most needy and most vulnerable.
Lowell is our home. Our headquarters are located here, and we do all of our programming in Lowell. And we do different programs in different communities. That's why we have a good constituent guide and program services brochure, because it can be a little hard to navigate us. We try to be as simple as possible, but it can get complicated because we don't do every program in every community, but we do them all here in the city of Lowell. And then many of them, and the 7 surrounding towns. And then as you go further out, we do housing in some of our northern region of Essex County and Middlesex, and then we do fuel assistance further south. We have a region for youth homelessness work, and that's a little different than some of our other regions, but you can find it all on our website, in our brochures and literature. And if anybody has any question, if we're not the right agency, we'll connect you. We do much of our work in partnership. So we have partners in Lawrence and Haverhill and across the valley. And I think it's an efficient way to work. And to me, it brings out the best of every agency, right? When we can all come together to solve a problem.
Well, thank you both for being with me today. Our conversations really cover a lot of ground. Is there anything else would you like to add in the end that we haven't covered?
Well, one more thing, because I think it's timely, as it's getting cold. Our fuel assistance program is ramping up, and Connie also runs fuel assistance. So I just want to encourage people to get their applications in. We think it's going to be a busy fuel year. It's again a way to maximize your income by having some support with fuel. And I know, Connie, do you want to say anything else about that?
I basically include that too. For anyone who's looking to learn more about fuel assistance, rental assistance, childcare, all of the information of our programs, there are a couple different things I'd offer. First off, certainly is the website, the comteam.org website. You can access application forms there, get eligibility information, get contact information. I think particularly now we've put in place too a COVID response hotline for clients who want to be able to call in directly. We are up to date on those phone calls so that people are getting return calls within 24 hours of leaving a message. That number is 978-654-5607. And they can also reach very quickly our email COVID response, and that's covidresponsecti@comteam.org. And I think, as we've mentioned kind of across the board, the full complement and kind of portfolio programming that community teamwork offers really functions at its best when we're able to kind of wrap around all the available resources, both provided from community teamwork and from our community partners, and work with individuals and families to build a real support system. So I think that kind of comprehensive, holistic approach to working with families and individuals is in many ways what sets CTI apart. And I think in extreme circumstances like our current COVID craziness, that's really, it's shown itself to be really the most effective and compassionate way to do the work that we all care so much about.
Right. And Connie, I just think, again, thank you to all the folks that have helped us, from the Community Foundation to the City of Lowell. Our Board of Health has been amazing working with us as we were trying to navigate the world of shelters, and find PPE and all of that. We turned to our partners. So we're really grateful for all the people that have helped us. And I just have to give another shout out to our staff because they have truly been my heroes. You know, I think no matter what they've been asked, they figured out how to do it and how to do it well, and how to, you know, when we've gotten behind, we've had people working overtime and weekends to kind of get the backlog done so that people aren't waiting a long time, because when you're in a crisis, you know, to wait a while can create even more anxiety. And I'm just so proud of our staff for, you know, the work they're doing from childcare to housing to emergency services. It really is incredible.
Well, we also commend your organization and all entire of your team have kept the organization in full operation under such extraordinary circumstances. So thank you to all of you, all that you've been doing. And thank you for being on the program today. And we hope to talk with you again soon.
Thank you very much, Soben. We appreciate your help in getting the word out and all that you do to do that. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you, Connie, also being on the program with me today. I hope to catch up with you again soon too.
Absolutely.
That was Karen Frederick, CEO, the Chief Executive Officer of Community Teamwork, and Connie Martin, Division Director of Energy and Resource Center at Community Teamwork. Thank you for tuning in today, and I'll see you next time. I'm Soben Pin.